Hi everybody, this is Dr. Tufail and I welcome you all in this class. In today's class, we will talk about what are approaches to writing and what are we would in today's class the objective, the learning objective would be that at the end we would be able to describe the different approaches of writing instruction. When we teach these writing instructions to students, that what approaches are adopted generally in our education system and what are the benefits of each approach and its merits, demerits, pros and cons, advantage and disadvantage. We would talk at that, and we would also talk about that how these various researchers and educators are going to critique and evaluate and analyze each approach and what are the outcome of the research and to what extent each approach is relevant and appropriate in our context and where we could use it to teach our students like that. So let us begin with this. Actually, because the aim of introduction is that the aim of this skill is to teach students to become a good writer, and that is also one of the skills what we need to develop among our learners. That they must be good writer. So, in order to develop their writing skills, the first thing what we do, the first approach which has been adopted was a penmanship approach. Okay, penmanship approach focus on handwriting skills. ये कहते थे कि बच्चे की जो राइटिंग हो वो खूबसूरत होनी चाहिए. So they primarily focused on that writing skills by by the hand of a writer, so that it could be readable, it could be neat, and it could produce something which we can understand. However, students, even many teachers dislike the boring in this mechanical drill. But what happened in 1930? Educators began to critique penmanship. They believe that no, now we don't need this too much. Okay, we need students because the technology is improving and other means of writings are developing. So only handwriting, if a student is able to write. His handwriting is profound, is more attractive. It doesn't matter, but actually, it is the matter which he puts in his writing is important. So the importance shifted from the beauty of a writing pattern to the content, and this is the importance. They encourage students to write their own ideas for real purpose, because beautiful letters are beautiful words were not that much important. So they there was kind of just this criticism developed, and by the 20th century, it was given less priority as the curriculum began to focus on writing original composition. When we talk about original composition, means that writing, actually writing, in the writing which has certain content that carries certain sense and meaning and conveys certain information. So they begin to view that handwriting is unimportant because the use of the technology. They believe that once the technology is coming, and where we have a computers, we have a gadgets and other things. So it is not a matter of importance that how beautifully one writes, but it is the matter of importance how correct one writes, how meaningfully one writes, how um, uh, relevant one is in his writing, and what sort of information and ideas you want to convey. He is able to convey his her information and ideas clearly and comprehensively. So today, handwriting is usually taught in a kindergarten through third grade, and these classes we teach these things at a basic level. But one thing is very important when we move forward in this thing. Okay, we realize that yes, handwriting is also important for that writing. Okay, in a sense that if a writer has a writing skill, but he is not fluent at his mechanical techniques of writing, then again his writing fluency would be hampered. As a strong reader needs fluent decoding, so a strong writer needs fluent handwriting skills. Then we, even today, we cannot rule out the importance of a handwriting. It is there, we need it. But again, beyond only beauty of the handwriting skills is not sufficient. We need the proficient writers need the content and the development of contents in a sensible, comprehensible manner which could convey the sense and meaning is the requirement of a good writing. So we shifted from this slowly, gradually, we shifted from this simple handwriting to writing, because they thought that if the student is going to write that my dog is brown, but he's not good at writing his skill, his handwriting is not fluent, so when he is writing my dog and then the is brown, the idea he may skip and he may forget. So for that they believe that handwriting is more relevant and it should be based, okay, means it could contribute towards writing. So, well, the first thing we shifted from penmanship to writing. Writing means writing some original ideas which carries a certain purpose and which could demonstrate certain things to students, or they could it could give a certain meaning. Okay, so and that most effective writing instructions are in a short, frequent, and structured lessons, and lessons should last 10 to 20 minutes each day and focus on writing fluently and automatically rather than on forming perfect letters or positioning the letters precisely between lines. Okay, now see, this is the basic difference between penmanship and writing. Okay, in the writing, we have a daily lessons 10 to 20 minutes in which the ideas are given to students to write with the fluency and automatically and focuses on the content rather than, okay, why then again we have a two type of handwritings. When we talk about these handwriting skills, then it is helpful if the teachers demonstrates how to form each letter and then provide time. Okay, so these approach believe that if you want to teach students these handwriting skills, then we should teacher just simply guide them that how each letter is properly written. So he should demonstrate, a teacher should demonstrate to write these different letters, and then he may ask the students to practice the same. We have two type of programs. They exist for this writing. One is a manuscript writing, and other is a cursor writing. So cursor writing is what we use in handwriting, and manuscript writing, which is used in the books. So these two type of writings, what we can teach students through demonstrations, but overall the penmanship जो सिर्फ हैंड राइटिंग पे फोकस था, वहां से वो शिफ्ट होकर बोला कि आप राइटिंग की तरफ जाएं। ये बड़ी बात नहीं है कि बच्चे की राइटिंग खूबसूरत हो, लेकिन ये अहम बात है कि बच्चा जो लिख रहा है उसमें कोई मतलब मफहूम हो और वो मफहूम समझने के काबिल हो, अंडरस्टैंडेबल हो। Then we switch to another movements, okay, and that was considered as a rule-based movement. Okay, and what's the difference between rule-based movements? Okay, here they were teaching this the basic things. Okay, they occurred in the subject of a grammar and were considered separate from the right grammar subjects. Okay, now here two things were there, and initially the teachers were teaching grammar to students, only the rules, how to write, and then the writing things, penmanship, it was a separated. So the students were given two type of instructions. One was their handwriting skills, and other was the grammar. In grammar, they were given the rules. And this approach developed by the 1800s, and these in which the students were required to identify parts of a speech, locating sentence elements such as a subject and predicate, and learning applying rules for subject verb agreement, pronoun use, and practicing pronunciation, punctuations, capitalizations, spelling, etc. These were the things. And one common exercise was the sentence corrections. These type of things they used in a rule-based approach, in which they try to teach the rules of writing with the help of rules, and the different rules the students were given to use. But with the passage of time, this technique also got much criticism, and the educators and the these researchers, they criticized or critique this approach, that this rule based is not appropriate, and it is they termed it or labeled it as a decontextualized and inauthentic. Why do they call it decontextualized? They say that basically the way the students write, these are the short sentences, they are not in their context. Means in the real life, in the real world, the sentence don't occur in the same way. The way they, okay, suppose I write a letter, we students practice in the class, I write a letter. So I is a subject, write is a letter is a predicate like this, okay. But actually, this sentence is not in its context, means it is not taking place in its normal flow, in a routine statement, in a routine situations where we use the language or we write. So when we write as a complete story. When we write a complete event. When we write, we complete essay. But these are the broken sentences. So they are out of the context. Therefore, they termed it deconceptualized, and also they termed it inauthentic. उन्होंने कहा एक बात है कि ये इस तरह के हम रोजमर्रा की जिंदगी में इस तरह टुकड़ों में लिखते नहीं है, तो ये सेंटेंस कंटेक्स्ट से बाहर है। दूसरा मसला ये है कि इट इज इनऑथेंटिक से मुराद है कि क्या रोजमर्रा के लोग जिंदगी में ऐसे बात करते हैं? नहीं, लोग जिंदगी में इस तरह नहीं बोलते। सो लोग जब बोलते हैं दे जस्ट स्पीक कंप्लीटली। सो इन ऑर्डर टू दीज थिंग्स टू give it a completeness, this aspect of this approach of writing is lacking, and it's not going to serve any meaningful purpose. And because we write to entertain, to inform, and persuade their readers, writers communicate meanings, not just correct sentence. So they must generate meaningful ideas to organize their thoughts logically. So that was the deviations from this thing. So later on, these teachers also they said that the grammar did not seem to affect people's speech and writing, and there was also this study pointed out that only teaching grammar alone cannot help students their speech and writing until it is practiced in the real life or real situation. So the children's rules apart from meaningful writing task makes no impact on how they write. Okay, now see, these all studies are research studies are there. They are going to show that it is not means only you are teaching rules to students to write. They don't help the students until they are allowed to write in their real meaning in a context. Okay, rather than this only teaching rule in all isolation. So, and here is only one study that shows that sentence combining technique is somehow meaningful and somehow contributive, in which the different part of sentences are given and the students are asked to combine that part in order to make a sensible sentence where they are going to develop a context. And here's a one sentence: Tim has a dog, the dog is a tall and the black, into Tim has a tall black dog. So this way, by combining the sentence, students can develop their contents. Okay, actually, the much criticism is on that in this type of writing. Actually, the rules they are deconstructualized instructions. They doesn't improve students' writing. There's just some evidence that teaching grammar within the context of writing is a beneficial. Means you whatever you want to teach the grammar, it should be contextualized and within context, not out of context, innocent alone in the separate sentences. What usually we do here, even in our schools, that I write a letter, she writes a letter, she doesn't write a letter, and we teach all these grammar rules all isolated, completely disconnected from the real context of the language. Then the students are not capable of using these all things in their routine life and their writing and spoken areas. So a contextualized approach looks very different from the traditional rule-based instructions. In a traditional approach, children might learn about adjectives by underlining them in a sentence printed on a worksheet. In a contextualized approach, they add adjectives to their stories and describe the characters and the setting. So this approach was later. This approach was later on replaced, or another approach came on in the practice. Okay, what we call the process approach. Okay, and this is completely different from the rule-based approach. Okay, in this approach, the students they were invited to learn. Mean children learn to brainstorm their ideas, then write their rough drafts and revise and edit those drafts. And so process writing emerged in 1970 and sparked by the teachers' growing rejections of the rule-based approach. Okay, you know that this was a rule-based approach that went on up to 1800 onwards. But later on, this approach, 1970, this replaced this rule-based approach, and especially these Donald Murray, who just connected, who became the workshop approach to writing. He said that we should organize a workshop in a sense that when the students are given instructions and they are engaged to do the things. And here he just gave the different models and which provided writers to do and compose, and composing process that occurs in the writer's mind. Importantly, both in the research and instruction proposed by professional authors such as Nore were based on the writing process used by adult writers rather than those by the children. However, despite these limitation, process writing became increasingly prevalent in elementary schools. Okay, so how they were using this thing here, they used a different way of using this. Okay, it focused on writing full text and the meaningful ideas. They were not using just a simple single isolated sentence for the rule based writing approach was using. They used meaningful ideas and to de-emphasize the spelling, punctuations, and grammar. Here, the focus is on ideas rather than on grammar rules and spelling and punctuations and grammar. So what was the process of writing? Okay, now, so they used a different method. Okay, the one method. Okay, suppose on Monday, where Mr. Johnson goes to school and asks the students that what would you be? Suppose he gives you, if you could be any animal for one day, what would you be? What would you do all day? So the students will brainstorm. They will make the list of different animals. And they would think about what the animals do on a daily basis. So they would choose a one animal and then they write their draft of their story. On the next day, okay, on the Tuesday, each child chose an animal and wrote a draft of his story. On Wednesday, Johnson asked the children to revise by reading over their first draft and instructing them to add five more details. He showed them how to draw arrows to blank spaces on the paper. So on the Thursday, again, Johnson written these children's stories for editing. Each child checked the spelling, capitalization, punctuations in his or her draft and made correction. On the Friday, the children copied their final drafts neatly onto clean papers and turned them into Mr. Johnson. So see, this is a process writing that you write. First, you take your role, then you think, brainstorming, then you write a rough draft, then improve it, then edit it, and the fourth, a capitalization, punctuations, other things, improving, and then you come up with a final draft after this process of a 1 week. And the next class, Mr. Turner is there, okay, and he asked the students, telling children about writing memories, okay, because you write something up from your memory. Because they have been talking too much about memoirs of different important writers. So they have been writing they have been writing about this brainstorm means they have been talking about these memoirs. So now he asks the students to select any memory from their life and to talk about it. So everybody just thinks about any event from his or her life and they try to compose in these things. Okay, and then again on the next it's this is again same process what Mr. Johnson adopted. And here the storytelling, some of you told a story that your partner liked very much. If you think others would enjoy hearing your story, write it down so you can share it with the class. Okay, so some children began writing and others continued telling their stories to different friends in the class. Okay, on Tuesday, Mr. Turner encouraged children to choose another memory, and so the students one by one, they were choosing different memories. They were telling to their friends. Then they were writing, and then they were just sharing with one another. So this way, the writing continued this way for 10 days, and children wrote, revised, and shared their work, and they received feedback from friends and from Miss Turner as well. Okay, here you see that. Students are giving a feedback and teachers are giving feedback, and that is the process. And this process goes for 1 week with a mutual and reciprocal feedback, and then after that they come up with their final draft. This is, and the third writer, Mr. Harrison's, classroom is that so Monday begins with the teachers announcing it's time to write, and the children enthusiastically scattered around the room, grabbing their pencils. They are ready to write, and Miss Harrison's allowed them to choose their own topic, write any topic of text. But most children wrote stories about characters from their favorite movies, or televisions, or etc. So every students they just are writing, are sharing, and giving their paper to their friends and getting their feedbacks and giving their feedbacks, and this is how, and the teachers encouraging them with a great job, etc. And the teacher is they keep writing for and improving for a time period, and ultimately this draft comes final. So each of these teachers process writing, they are using different way. You look at Mr. Johnson's room. In Mr. Johnson's room, he assigned writing topic. If he gave a topic, means there was a limited topic to students. But in Turner's, okay, they chose their own topics and moved through the process of their own and got feedback, peers, and etc. And it shared their writings. Okay, they also received both individual and group instruction from teachers. Okay, Miss Harrison's class, the students chose their own topics and moved through the writing process at their own pace, but they received no direct instructions from the teachers. Okay, so these are the three different models. Choose your topic and write on. And second, choose your topic and give feedback and give feedback from the peers and get feedback from the teachers. So in the third model, get your things, get your topic, choose your topic and write it to your own without any feedback. And then these different process, they just this a process. Okay, being actually there are different ways of these models because these models are different. So there are different research studies showing that whether they were effective or not, which model with instruction, without instruction, with feedback, without feedback, with the teacher's inventions and without teacher inventions. They are some of the questions what they have developed. Um, certain concerns, but however, they extend the opportunity for writing for real audience. Okay, there's emphasis on the cyclical natures of writing, including planning, translating, devising, students' ownership of writing compositions, interactions around writing between peers as well as teachers, students. So these things are supportive to environment, their self-reflections, evaluations of their writing and writing process. These are the qualities which make this thing is quite important way, and it's moderately effective for average and high achieving writers, but only minimally effective for the struggling writers. This process writing is it should be noted that it's more effective for those students who are average writer or who are good at writing, but those who are struggling writers, it will be very difficult for them to develop with this thing. So again, this process writing, but they also believe there's another kind of thing that when we are asking students to give feedback, then they must know that what the feedback they should go, so they should give to their friends and fellows. Okay, so they say that you must teach students that the author's ideas, the author reads his or her writing, the, the, the author reads his or her writing aloud, and the listener tells one thing to the author did well, means whatever the author reads, he must read, and then the listener students, the listener students should say him he or she, the writer has done well, and then the listeners ask questions about the writing content. Then what he or she has written, so he should raise the questions, and then listener gives one suggestion for improved writing. It means it is going to say that when you are right, you are asking students to give feedback because the students are not experts. They don't know how to give feedback. So again, they should be given a particular instruction. And one thing is very important. One thing is missing in this process writing is that there's no clear-cut instructions for the writer. What to write, how to write, what are the techniques, and what should be the ways. So it believed that in order to even there's no clear instruction for the students how to give feedback to the partners to another student. So it said that it should have a clear cut ways and instruction to the students how to give feedback. In a feedback, you appreciate other person and ask the opponent to read, and then you ask questions, and you then give one suggestions for the improvement. So this should be the model of that thing. But finally, the people have this type of in a process writing, as I already mentioned, it is very much effective for the that learners means effective writers are those who are good at writing but struggling writing writers. It becomes difficult. So finally, then we switch to genre writing. In the genre, actually, we are not we mean that teachers ignore the quality of the writing itself. Okay, because they in this although the process writing provided a much needed response to ineffective deconstructualized language activities, the focus on process sometimes mean teachers ignore the quality of writing itself. Okay. Here, this is okay. Means they believe that the process writing was better than a rule-based writing and a deconstructualized and inauthentic method of writing, which had been used in the past. But again, it ignored the quality. And what is the quality? In some classrooms, the children drafted, revised, and shared their work, but their writing never improved. What was the reason? The reason was that because it was not it was not based on this type of things, and which could which could give effective information to the learners. Okay, so in some classrooms, the children drafted, revised, edited, and shared their work, but they couldn't improve. And why they couldn't improve? This the reason was that some children, usually white, middle class English speakers, seem to excel. Okay, here they say that actually students' background also mattered. Okay, वो students जो किसी साउंड बैकग्राउंड से थे, उनके पास वाकयात इवेंट वगैरह ज़्यादा थे, तो वो लिख जाते थे। जो हिस्टोरिकली मार्जिनलाइज्ड ग्रुप्स के थे, वो जो है वो अपना नहीं लिख पाते थे और वो फिर पीछे रह जाते थे। इवन दिस प्रोसेस राइटिंग में भी उनको इतना फ़ायदा नहीं होता था। इसलिए फिर उन्होंने एक नई थियरी बनाई, दे वेंट टू दिस Yana approaches, and in Yana approaches, they say that we should have a clear cut Yana to write, because when we write differently. Writing message to a friend is a different than writing an essay. For example, texting to a friend and composing an essay are two different writing skills. Okay? Because when you are writing to a friend, you say, okay, meet you at 10. It's very clear. It's understandable because you have a common knowledge of the background and experience. But when you write an essay, then you need a completely different ways. Okay, you need a formal tone. You have to fully explain it, all ideas, provide examples, and use complete sentences. So thus the form of writing is tied to the situations in which it occurs. So this Yanda writing is going to talk about that every writing should have a certain situations. Okay, it must occur in a certain situations. So we teach students that specific situations in which it occurs. Okay, and they should be told, they should be helped to move according to this. Okay. Afterwards, we had this strategy approach to writing instructions, teach children the planning, drafting, and revision, and strategies used by skill writers. Here, they just gave these different strategies. The first strategy is POW, in which you pick your ideas first of all, then organize those ideas, then write them. So the first technique is that okay, you first pick your ideas, what you want to write, then organize them, and then you write. Okay, so these are the different strategies for writing, and the first strategy is PO, and the teachers would teach the strategy through a series of steps. Then develop the background knowledge. Students need to apply the strategy, discuss the strategy, and how it will improve students' writing. So the teachers has to guide students before applying that certain strategies in their writing and to improve. Okay. And other strategy apart from this PO, we have a T, and in T you have this again same. You have to tell what you want to, and this should be in your topic sentence. Then you have to give three reasons at least. Means whatever the topic sentence in a paragraph you have introduced, you should give its reason. What are the reasons which are going to support that what you believe? And afterwards, okay, you have to end your paragraph, and other is that you have to examine what you have written. So this three is another strategy that you should tell us your topic sentence, give reason why do you believe like that thing, and conclude it with an effective sentence, and finally examine that if you have done. Okay, so this was another strategy, POW, then T, and then we have another strategy which is especially used in a persuasive writings in order to persuade persuade the reader regarding certain idea what you want to convince them, or you want to convey to unto them. So this strategy is very much effective for those who are engaged in persuasive writing. And then there was another, okay, after completing their drafts, they might learn the scan revision strategy. And there was another scan, and scan what we do each sentence. Does it make a sense? So when you complete it, you just check it. The scan is that, okay, S stands for the, is there any sense? And C stands for connected. Each sentence is connected. And A is going to show that it's going to add something more. And N, note errors. If there's errors, okay, you should. So PO, T, scan, these strategies they introduced with the help of this thing, we can improve students to develop with these studies, and they are used in different ways. And it is also used that strong evidence that strategy instruction help children learn to write well. It is not widely used at elementary level, but it's level used at secondary and then higher secondary, at university, and grown-up students is very good. And but now we have moved beyond this thing. Okay, we have entered in the modern world, and modern world is not only writing a simple like a penmanship or writing, or rule-based writing, or process-based writing, or the genre-based writing, or strategy-based writing. But today, when you look at one of the website, you find that it is full of a different fact. There are pictures, there are audios, there are videos, and there are designs, and these all things make it. So today's writing in the 21st century, once we have entered in a digital period, we have different ways and means to write and to take people. We need a different techniques. So we have to also teach these things to our students at advanced level to develop these multi-modal writing approaches, where we are going to adopt these different techniques and skills to develop a wonderful writers. And this is how this writing would be effective. So in the summary, many different approaches to writing instructions have been used in elementary classrooms. Some approaches, such as short, structured handwriting lessons and strategy instructions, have a strong research base to support them. Other approaches, like penmanship and rule-based instructions, are ineffective in improving children's writing skills. Many approaches, including teaching grammar in a context, process writing, teaching genre, and multimodal writing, are promising practices that need more research to determine the best ways to implement them. So teachers commonly do and probably should combine the best elements of each approach in order to provide the most effective instructions for their students. They must also seek out newly published research on writing instructions so they can continue to make informed decisions about the best way to teach. So here I'm going to sum up my class with this uh, complete description of these different approaches कि अब वो दो नहीं रहा कि हम सिर्फ बच्चों की हैंड राइटिंग पे गौर करते रहें और उसको खूबसूरत बनाते रहें। हमें उससे आगे बढ़कर बच्चों के जो स्किल्स राइटिंग के जो स्किल्स डेवलप करने थे, जो दूसरा राइटिंग ने कहा था कि ये अहम चीज़ नहीं है कि वो कितना खूबसूरत लिखता है, लेकिन राइटिंग अप्रोच ने कहा कि वो जो लिखता है उसमें मतलब कितना है। लेकिन फिर हम आगे आ गए थे रूल बेस्ड पे, जिसमें हमने ग्रामर को अलहदा और पेनमैनशिप को अलहदा पढ़ाना शुरू किया। और उसको जो उसमें नुकसान ये हुआ कि रूल्स जो थे उसको हमने कहा कि दे आर डीकंस्ट्रक्चुअलाइज्ड एंड इनऑथेंटिक, क्योंकि एक तो वो टुकड़ों में होते हैं, दूसरी बात वो रियल जिंदगी में ऐसा हम नहीं करते। तो वहां से फिर हम प्रोसेस मेथड पे आ गए, और प्रोसेस मेथड में स्टूडेंट्स को एक इंडिपेंडेंस थी और उनको टॉपिक दिए जा रहे थे, वो लिख रहे थे, उसमें स्टूडेंट्स अपने आप से भी सीख रहे थे, टीचर से भी सीख रहे थे। लेकिन उसमें फिर ये था कि डिफरेंट टीचर्स डिफरेंट मॉडल्स यूज कर रहे थे, और उसमें उस हर एक मॉडल की इफेक्टिवनेस को समझने के लिए हमें प्रैक्टिकल रिसर्च करनी पड़ेगी क्लासरूम में कि कौन सा मॉडल हमारे कंटेक्स्ट में ज्यादा इफेक्टिव साबित होता है स्टूडेंट्स के लिए। तो उस प्रोसेस राइटिंग से आगे उसमें एक चीज़ थी कि उसमें फिर भी चीज़ें ज़्यादा जनरलाइज़ थी और उसमें मेन इश्यू ये था कि ठीक है प्रोसेस में स्टूडेंट्स लिख तो रहा है, लेकिन कुछ सवाल ये था कि उस स्टूडेंट्स को उस लिखने के दौरान कोई इंस्ट्रक्शन नहीं मिल रही थी कि कैसे लिखना है। तो वो यानरा बेस्ड पे जो है ना वो आ गए। यानरा में हमने ये देखा कि उसमें हम एक मखसूस यानरा की जो रिक्वायरमेंट्स हैं वो बच्चे को पहले समझाते हैं कि ऐसे ऐसे लिखा जाता है, रिपोर्ट ऐसे लिखी जाती है, समरी ऐसे लिखी जाती है, एग्जीक्यूटिव समरी ऐसे लिखी जाती है। फिर उसके मुताबिक हम उसे गाइड करते हैं कि हाउ टू राइट दैट पर्टिकुलर यानरा। दूसरा मामला ये था कि प्रोसेस राइटिंग के अंदर जो रिच बैकग्राउंड के स्टूडेंट्स थे वो अच्छा लिख जाते थे, लेकिन जो हम्बल बैकग्राउंड के स्टूडेंट्स थे उनके पास इतने आइडियाज़ नहीं होते थे कि दे ओपनली could convey and communicate their ideas. तो फिर उसी के बाद जो है ना वो हम वी शिफ्टेड फ्रॉम याना वी शिफ्टेड टू स्ट्रेटजी। और स्ट्रेटजी में मुख्तलिफ जिस तरह हमने जो है ना वो देखे पो स्ट्रेटजी देखी, स्कैन स्ट्रेटजी देखी, थ्री स्ट्रेटजी देखी, जिसने हमें राइटिंग में सपोर्ट किया और आगे ले गया और उसमें हेल्प किया कि इन चीज़ों की मदद से we can improve writing. And finally we have got a multimodal writings. In a multimodal writings in the modern time we have these different ways and means. So today's world is very much complex. Today's problems are very complex. So today's writing is very complex because once you are living, you have started to living in a complex world. So the problems of this complex words are not simple. So the writing of these complex words are not simple. We need these complex models to develop, and we also need to teach our students with this complex model to emerge as a successful writer. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful time. Keep learning. Bye. Allah Hafiz.